that'll ruin our national defense. And I disagree with that. I think that our national defense is undermined by bankrupting our country. Most great countries go down not because they're overtaken by another country, but because of economic crisis. The Soviet system collapsed for economic reasons, and we're really on the verge of that too if we can continue to do this. So this, to me, the amount of money we spend overseas has undermined our national defense. There should be a distinction between military spending and defense spending. And Eisenhower, of course, as a Republican president, as he was leaving office, he warned, he says, be careful. There will be special interests that will always want to spend money in the military, and they will always justify it. There will always be, a desperate reason why we have to do this and be involved. But just recently, this type of foreign policy has led to an additional problem. It's not out of control now, but it contributes to our problem. That is the problem in Libya. We had an on-again, off-again relationship with Gaddafi. He finally gave up his nuclear weapons, and we started trading with him again. And once he gave up his nuclear weapons, you know what happened to him? They finally got rid of him. Now there's a new government there. Unfortunately, the new government, as bad as Gaddafi was, they might end up worse because they have alliances with the Al-Qaeda. But there were a lot of weapons lost when the fighting was occurring with our efforts through NATO. It wasn't directly, but indirectly we were paying for it. But a lot of weapons disappeared. So I know I just read recently that there is a massive program that the president wants to rearm this new government. So guess what? We're going to be building weapons, but somebody's going to make profits on that. So Eisenhower's warnings were justified. Watch out for the military-industrial complex. We're supposed to defend this country. We're not supposed to be giving arms to certain dictators around the world to secure their power. We pumped in over many decades about $40 billion to prop up to Mubarak in Egypt. But he had a huge army, hundreds of thousands. But it wasn't for defense. Nobody was going to invade his country. He had a huge army. It was usually for him to stay in power. But it costed all that money. Now that government was finally overthrown, and once again, another military dictatorship is evolving, and they're more radical. They're more likely radical Islamists, and they're way less friendly with Israel. So there's so many unintended consequences, but the most significant for all this activity is it contributes so much to our bankruptcy. Now, the other reason that I talk a lot about the overseas spending is for pure political reasons. And that is, the foreign policy would be better and all, and the world would be safer. But politically, it makes it so much easier to talk about spending overseas and cutting some program here at home. Why should we talk about cutting back on health care here at home when we don't cut all this overseas spending? So I think politically we should bring people together, left or right or independent or what, and say, yes, we know we're in big trouble. We have to cut. Let's cut the overseas spending. That would mean we could immediately bring our troops home, and immediately they would start spending their money here in this country instead of in Korea, and Japan, and Europe, and the Middle East. So that in itself could give us an economic boost just because that money would be spent here rather than overseas. But I'm convinced we'd have stronger national defense than we have now because we are more threatened by the people who rather resent it that we're in their face and telling them what to do and deciding who the bad guys are and use these drones just at will, any place we want to go. The world is the battlefield now. So they will attack individuals. I'm sure they're nasty, violent people. But guess what? They have problems always hitting one person. And first they violate the sovereignty of these nations. But then innocent people get killed. And I keep trying to remind people that even if you say, well, yeah, we still have to go out and we have to do this, think about it in the way of how we would react if somebody was powerful enough to do that to us. I mean, we would highly resent it. I mean, just the idea that they could come in here and lob a missile and decide that there's a renegade and escape from their countries in this country and not deal with us as a nation. So that in itself causes a lot of resentment. But the financial condition of the country isn't only due to the foreign policy, the financial condition and the bankruptcy is due to the excessive spending in this country. And the programs that we have, many of them shouldn't have ever been started. The ones where the people become so dependent, there's an educational program, there's medical care program, there's a social security. This is what I'm trying to protect in a period of time where we get our health back and our sensibilities back. So, but you can't do that unless you cut something like overseas and some of these departments that we don't need. I don't see why we should have to have this Department of Education tell you how to run your school. I'd get rid of it. But even then, we wouldn't have enough money to cut that trillion. So what I would propose is going back to the funding of 2006. Now, that's not so long ago. And I don't think any of us should be unhappy with the size of the government was in 2006. I thought it was way too big then. So it is an effort, but nothing like that happens. One person can propose it, one person can move it, one person can encourage and get other people to come along. But ultimately, it's the people that make a difference. For all these years where we have been careless and we have been spending the money, it wasn't because the government always just wanted to spend the money. The people more or less endorsed it. They re-elected the congressman. I'm going to get you this, and not worry about the deficit. We'll tax, we'll borrow, we'll print the money. So it's happy-go-lucky. Things are different this time. We're at a point where our economic system is under attack. Our good jobs are overseas. We've become complacent. We are more interested, excuse me, in the redistribution of wealth rather than protecting the environment to produce wealth. Good jobs are overseas. We have an inflationary system where the inflation is undermining your standard of living because prices are going up.